This is Cameron Todd Willingham. If you search his name, you'll see headlines, articles, and years of debate. Convicted of arson, sentenced to death, and later questions raised about the evidence used to convict him. 3 children died in a house fire, and a case moved forward that would ultimately describe one man's fate. Today, we're not here to debate guilt or innocence. We're not here for theories or dramatics. We are here to read the record. This is Between the Lines, and we're starting with the court transcripts in the case of Cameron Todd Willingham. Let's begin. Okay, y'all, when we last left off, we had Mr. Martin finishing up and he turned it over to Mr. Jackson, which we're going to get into now. He is examining Miss Barb. So let's get into it. Miss Barb, you talked about electricity popping. At what point did you first hear the electricity popping? When it engulfed the house, when the fire broke out, when the flames engulfed the house? Yes, it started, cracking and sparking, all of that. Had you heard any electrical noises before that? No. I will show you what's been marked State's Exhibit number 1, just to get an accurate photograph of what the house looked like. Would you take a look at that and identify it for me, if you can? That's Cameron and Stacy's house. Is that an accurate representation of the house that you testified about that was smoking and caught fire? Yes, sir. Mr. Jackson, I offer this as State's Exhibit 1. Mr. Martin, no objection. The court, it's admitted. By Mr. Jackson. When you had an opportunity to see Cameron the next day, could you tell that he had no serious injuries? I didn't see any. Did he act like he had any serious injuries? No. Have any bandages or anything like that at any point on his body? No. He had a sweater, breeches, and shoes and socks. Do you have any idea how long that house had been? Oh, I thought I paused it. Do you have any idea how long that house had been on fire before Buffy first smelled smoke and came into the house? She went outside at 10 o'clock and she smelled the smoke when she first went outside. At 10 o'clock? Yes, sir. But she thought what she told me, I know, which is hearsay, I won't. Do you know if it was 10 o'clock when she went outside? It was 10 o'clock. It was about 10 minutes after 10 o'clock. Then when you first came outside the door, at least, yeah, I don't know if they had really been out there that long before she looked up. You know how kids are when they get to plan. They don't think about anything. And she didn't bother even to look until you had not heard a cry for help during that period, for that time period. No, sir, I did not. You did not hear a cry for help until you hurriedly went out the front door, until we went out the screen door. Yes, sir. Was Stacy Willingham the wife at home at this time, to your knowledge? No, sir, she wasn't. Mr. Jackson passed the witness, recross examination. Now it's back with Mr. Martin. Now, Miss Barr, before you went outside, you were in your home watching television with 10 children. Six children. There was 4 outside. And you believe that Buffy, your youngest daughter, had been outside smelling smoke for about 10 minutes before she came in and alarmed you. Mr. Martin passed the witness. Mr. Jackson, I have no further questions. The court, you may step down. Call your next witness, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, state calls Brandy Barb. The court, come forward, please. You were sworn earlier. The witness, yes. The court, take your time in the witness chair. And then we're going to skip that because ain't no point of reading that. So now it looks like they're going to interview Brandy Barb. This is by Mr. Jackson. Would you state your name for the record, please? Brandy Barb. And where do you live? At 1205 West 11th. About how long have you lived there? About 12 or 13 years. I believe you are the daughter of Diane Barb. Is that correct? You were living on 11th Avenue, I believe, back in December of last year. Is that correct? Let me direct your attention to the 23rd of December of last year, 2 days before Christmas. Do you remember that? Yes, sir. Let me direct your attention to the mid-morning hours of that day. Can you tell me in your own words what you remember about the events that took place shortly after 10 o'clock that morning? After 10 o'clock, well, I heard my mom come back in the house screaming that there was a fire and that the babies were burning up. I had just gotten out of the shower. I threw something on and I ran out there in the street. Can you tell me what you saw when you got out in the street? Todd was standing in the yard when I got out there. Can you tell us or describe for us what part of the yard he was standing in? He was standing by a tree. It was right by the driveway. And what was he doing when you first saw him? He was screaming that there was a fire, that his babies were burning, and for someone to help him to call 911. What did you do at that point? I was screaming for him to come back in the house and get the babies or tell someone to where the babies were. And my little sister was with me. I told her to go to the house next to his and call 911. Did he ever make an attempt to go back in the house when you asked him to go back in? Not that I seen. Did he ever go back or attempt to go back in the house while you were there? Not that I seen. Can you describe what happened after you asked him to go back in the house? Well, he was screaming about a car a little while later and told someone to come to help him move it out of the driveway. The next thing I seen, he went across the street and sat down on the curb. Were you there present while your mother was going down the street to try to get help? That's when I run down towards his house. All right. And about how long did you stay there outside the premises of his house? I was there until the fire trucks got there. All right. And you at no time saw him try to go back in the house? No. Was he coughing during this time period? No. Did you see him move his car? Yes. Did he seem concerned about his car? Yes. After the fire department got there, did he try? What did Todd Willingham do? Well, he was still screaming about the babies, and by that time I had left. Were you acquainted with Cameron Todd Willingham and his wife Stacy? Well, I knew that they lived next door. I never really talked to them. Did you later have an opportunity to go to the hospital?
Yes. Can you tell us how you happened to go to the hospital? Well, one of my friends, Stephanie, she babysit on Tuesday nights with Amy O'Shea, and she was hysterical. She couldn't believe the fire had happened and everything. She asked me to take her out there. I took her out there. What did you do when you got to the hospital? We found out where his room was and went to his room. Did you have an opportunity to see him when you got to the room? Yes. Can you describe him when you walked into the room? Well, when we first walked in, he was on the phone talking about caskets. And for the babies? I believe so. You overheard him making funeral arrangements. Well, that's what it sounded like. That's how long after the fire. This was how long after the fire? It was probably about 2 or 3 that day. Fire was at 10:10, and this was about 2:30. What did he look like? Did he have any injuries? Well, his eyelashes and eyebrows was singed, but other than that, I didn't see anything wrong with him. Did he make any requests of you or Stephanie at this time? Well, we went downstairs, and then Stephanie said, "Let me call back up there to see if they want anything to eat." When we called up there, they wanted us to go. Mr. Martin, we object to hearsay or speculation if she wasn't the party to the phone call, and she obviously wasn't. Mr. Jackson, I will rephrase any question. The court, all right, sir. Mr. Jackson, based on request from Mr. Willingham's room, what did you do at that point? Mr. Martin, Your Honor, we object to that as getting hearsay through the back door. It's assuming facts, not in evidence. Mr. Jackson, I'm not asking for any hearsay. The court, overrule the objection. These two are so feisty. What did you do at this point? We went to Jack in the Box and got some food, and then we came back to the hospital and I dropped Stephanie off and she took the food up to the room. I did not go back in. Were you upset at this point? Yes, I was upset. Why were you upset? Well, I couldn't believe that someone would even think about eating after his babies had just burned up. Did Todd make any comments about the babies? Like that day? While you were there at the hospital? I didn't really talk to him. Did he seem overcome with emotion when you saw him? Mr. Martin, we object to that as leading. Mr. Jackson, it's an observation, Your Honor. The court, I overrule the objection. Mr. Jackson, you can answer. The witness, what was the question? Was he upset in the room when you saw him? He wasn't crying or anything. Mr. Jackson passed the witness, so now it's Mr. Martin's time. Hold on, y'all. Clean my camera off. It's a little blurry. There we go. Miss Barr, you have never lost a family member in a fire, have you? No. Never lost a close family member, have you? To accident or death? I lost my grandmother, my great grandmother, but you weren't in. I was small. I hardly remember it. So my point is that this is the first time you've ever been around someone who has lost children in a fire or accident. Is that correct? What the fuck is he trying to say? Child, yes. And so you wouldn't know typically how people would respond to that, would you? No. You were not a party to the conversation that Amy O'Shea had with Todd in the hospital when she talked to Todd, were you? No. Don't know what was said during that conversation? No. Now, I did understand you say that you ran out of the house and ran to where? Towards his house. And how far did you get? If this is your house, that's Mrs. Daniels, that's the Willingham house. How far? I was right beside him where the small tree is. Did you go to the on this side of the fence between the Daniels? I went past the fence. You went over here to the trees. Yes. May I see that? Thank you. And is the tree you are describing shown in this picture? Yes. Which tree is it? That one right there. Can you tell us about how far out from the house that tree is into the yard? I'm not sure. It's not as far as from you to me, is it? Not quite that far. Is it about as far as you would are from the table there? It's a little bit more. It's about to me to the chair. To this chair? About 15 feet or so, you think? However far that is. If that's 15 feet, all right. And there's another tree up closer to the house. I think this is one beside their house, and this was one on the front of it, but it's been cut down. Was the tree that you're talking about behind the car? No. Was it in front of the car? It was on the side of the car. It was in front of it. So the car at first was parked about where the tree was, a little bit up more than the tree was. You ran to that tree? He was standing beside it. Okay. And this was after your mother had run back down to the street, the other direction? She was down the street. Now, were you there to see Todd break these windows out the front of the house? No. Had that already happened? I didn't even know about it. You never saw this? I never seen that. And when you came out, where the windows broken out on the front of the house? I don't know. I never looked at the house. You just looked at him? Yes, I was looking at him. You were telling him to go back in the house? Yes, but you didn't go back. But you didn't go back in the house? No. Nor try to go into the house? No. Nor do you know. We made an attempt. We was running towards the house. Me and my mother, we was fixing to go and try to get in, and that's when it was an explosion, the electricity and everything. You and your mother did this? Well, we was on our way. We was in Mrs. Daniels' yard, and we were running up towards the house. Was this after the time you had first gone out there and talked to Todd? So you had been out there talking to him then. You went back. I didn't talk to him. I was pleading with him to go back in the house, but you didn't go in. No, because the house was smoking. It was smoking. You could tell it was on fire. I didn't see any flames, but you did not feel it was safe for you to go into the house, did you? No, because it was smoking. Because you recognized that it was on fire, but you didn't know how extensive the fire was inside, did you? No. And from your vantage point here, you couldn't see down the hallway here, could you? No. But you saw smoke coming out the front door in the front windows and the windows on the side of the house. Yes. Mr. Martin passed the witness. It kind of seems like Mr. Martin is trying to make this clause of like, well, if you guys didn't run in the house, why would Todd run in the house? But I'm really trying not to give my personal opinion until we're reading everything, but it's like, you left your babies in there? It wasn't inflamed? Child. Anyway, now it's back to Mr. Jackson, so let's go. Were you present the next night when the Willinghams were at your house? Yes. You mentioned something in one of your statements. Let me ask you about it. Mr. Martin, Your Honor, we object to improper attempt to bluster the witness. The court overruled the objection. Mr. Jackson, I'm not blustering the witness. Did he make a statement about the babies walking in the hands of the Lord? Mr. Martin, Your Honor, we object to that as leading the court. I've sustained the objection. Mr. Jackson, let me re-ask it. Did you remember him making a statement about the babies? He said something like that. You didn't know where the children were in the house, did you? No. The rear of the house was not involved in the smoke and flames, was it? No. Did it seem strange to you that Todd Willingham wouldn't go back in the house to try to rescue his own children? Mr. Martin, Your Honor, we object to that as leading. Mr. Jackson, that's not leading, Your Honor. The court, I overrule the objection. Mr. Martin, it also calls on the witness to speculate. The court, I overrule the objection. Mr. Jackson, did it seem strange to you? At that point, I didn't think about anything, but after a while, I started thinking about it. Yes. Mr. Jackson passed the witness, so this time it's recross examination back to Mr. Martin. Well, Miss Barb, did it seem strange to you that you didn't go rushing into the smoking house? That wasn't particular to you, was it? No. See, and that's exactly what I'm saying. He's trying to make it so that the jury sees that, well, if Miss Barb and her daughter did not run in that house, then why would Todd run into the house? I see exactly what he's trying to do. He's trying to paint a picture to say, well, if you guys didn't, why would Todd do it? Mr. Martin, you messy. So now it's going back to Mr. Jackson. He says, you think if you had children, you might have gone in a smoking house. I just knew Mr. Martin was about to object to this. Mr. Martin, we object to this as calling on the witness. The court, I sustain the objection. Mr. Jackson, pass the witness. Mr. Martin, nothing further, Your Honor. The court, you may step down. Members of the jury panel, we're going to take a 5 or 10 minutes break, recess. Then I guess it comes back and it says, call your next witness, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson State calls Buffy Barb. The court, come forward, please. And again, we're not going to read that because she was sworn in. So let's go. Buffy, you may have to speak into this microphone so that people can hear what you say. The jury has to hear what you say. This lady has to hear what you say so she can write it down. Understand? Would you tell us your name? My name is Buffy Barb. Buffy, I believe you are the daughter of Diane Barb. Is that correct? Yes. Where do you live? 1205 West 11th. Let me ask you to remember something for me. First of all, how old are you? 11. Okay. Let me ask you to remember back on 2 days before Christmas. Do you remember then? Yes. Well, do you remember the house catching on fire 2 doors down from you? Yes. All right. Can you tell us what happened in your own words on that date? Yes. Okay. My sister and me went out back to play, and we had a friend, and we were playing, listening to the radio, and I smelled smoke. So it didn't really bother me the first time. Then I saw it, and then I said, "Oh my God, the house is on fire." So I ran in and said, "Sheila's house is on fire," because there was so much smoke you couldn't tell which house it was. Me and my mom ran out the front door at the same time, and when we ran out the front door, he started hollering. Have you heard him hollering before then? No, sir. You had been outside, hadn't you? Uh-huh. Can you tell us what you did after you saw him? Well, he went to Miss Daniel's yard to the driveway. And when you're talking about him, I assume you're talking about Mr. Willingham. Cameron Willingham, is that correct? Yes. Okay, then what did you do? He was hollering, "My babies are inside burning up. Help me." I said, "Go back in and get the babies." What did he do, Buffy? He just stood there. Mr. Jackson passed the witness. Oh, excuse me. Buffy, how old are you? Buffy, how old did you tell us you were? 11. Do you think you were in the backyard about 10 minutes or so before you ran in the house and got your mom? Yes. You thought about it first. It was at the house next door that was on fire? Yes. Because there was so much smoke? Yes. And you saw Todd break out the windows on the front porch of the house while he was there? One of them. Pass the witness. Was the house on fire when you first went over there, or was there smoke? There was just a lot of smoke. Pass the witness. Mr. Martin, no further questions. The court, you may step down. Call your next witness. Mr. Jackson, state calls John H. Bailey. The court, come forward, please. And of course, y'all know the usual. So, Mr. Jackson, would you state your name, please? John Henry Bailey. And Mr. Bailey, where do you live? 1204 West 11th. Do you live in close proximity to the house that burnt there on 11th Avenue back in December? Pretty close, right across the street. Were you aware that Mr. and Mrs. Willingham and their children lived in that house? Yes, I was. Were you there at home while the fire took place? No, I was not. I got there I drove up there about noon. All right, let me ask. Were you at home the next day after the fire took place? Yes, I was after lunch. That would be the 24th, Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve. Did you observe anything across the street that seemed unusual to you? Well, I seen Todd and his wife. They came home. Well, they came back to the burnt out house. They were going through a lot of the debris. I called the police department because I wasn't sure there was an ongoing investigation. Did you have an opportunity to observe their demeanor while they were going in and out of the house? Yes, sir, I did. It was not the attitude of people that just lost their children should have had. It was more of laughing, cutting up type attitude. Did the police arrive at that premises? Yes, sir, they did. Did you notice anything unusual as change of demeanor at that time? Yes, sir. Everything got certainly somber, more the attitude they should have had the whole time. Mr. Jackson passed the witness. Now it's Mr. Martin's turn. Mr. Bailey, you live across the street from this house. Not directly, just more of a cat or corner type. And these observations that you described for us, they were made from your house? Yes, sir, from my front porch. Like if this is the Willingham home here, do you live over here across the street from Mrs. Daniels? Yes, sir, right directly in front of Mrs. Daniels. You live here then? Yes, sir. And you were standing on the front porch? Yes, sir, I certainly was. And Todd and Stacy were inside their house or where? When I observed them, they were on the front porch. They were over here, right at the entrance of the house. They weren't acting in the way you thought that they should be acting. Nothing to strike me rather unusual. Do you have children? Yes, sir, I do. I have daughters. Have you ever lost a child? No, sir, I have not. Have you ever lost a family member? Yes, I have. Or a close friend in an accident that you witnessed? No, sir. Have you ever seen anybody immediately after they have lost their children? Yes, sir. And when was this? It was at an auto accident a few years ago. People you knew? No, sir. And you called the police on them? Well, I assume that there was an ongoing investigation. You were suspicious? As much as, yes, sir, I was. Mr. Martin passed the witness. Mr. Jackson, no further questions at this time. You may step down. So now the state will call Mr. Jerry Long, and we're going to move forward. Okay. Mr. Jackson, would you state your name, please, sir? Jerry Wayne Long. Jerry, where do you live? 813 South 29th. Jerry, do you live in a fairly close proximity to the house on 11th Avenue that burnt 2 days before Christmas last year? Not at this time. I did live at 1129 South 11th. How would you describe where you lived then in relation to the Willingham home? It was 2 houses west on the same side of the street. Do you remember the event of the day when that house burnt? Yes, sir. All right. Can you tell us where you were during the morning hours? I was in the backyard of my house working on my truck, and I heard them hollering, smoking stuff. Okay, what kind of hollering did you hear? I just heard someone yelling. I'm not sure, just loud hollering, oh my God, and stuff like that. Did you go over to the house at this time? Yes, sir. Can you describe what you saw when you got there? As I was walking up, I seen a man walking from between a house and a fence. There was a car sitting in the driveway at this address where the house was burning, and this man walked. Looked like he had walked from the back of the house between the fence and the car out toward the street. Do you know that man at that time? No, sir. Do you know who he is at this point? No, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Did you later find out that he was Mr. Willingham, occupant of the house? Yes, sir. Tell us again what he was doing when you first saw him. When I first walked up, he was walking from the back of the house and he walked out the curb and I walked up to him. The house was burning and he was telling us that his children were in the house and he was standing out by the curb. Did he try to get back in the house while you were there? No, sir. Did you notice anything unusual about him as far as his demeanor or what he said or what he did? He wasn't real excited. He would stop and look at himself. He would holler. He would tell me that his kids were in the house, and then he would stop and look at himself, his arms, and he would check himself to see if he was, I guess, burnt or whatever. Was he coughing when you saw him? No, sir. Did he ever try to explain what was happening to you? To me? Yes, sir. What do you mean happening to me? No. Did he ever try to explain to you what had happened with the house or anything like that? Well, he just told me he pointed up to the meter where the wires come from, the utility pole up to the house. He pointed up to those, told me that he had been having trouble with those, that they had been having trouble with the electricity in the house. So he was trying to tell you about the problems with the wiring at this time. Here come Mr. Martin. Child, we object to that as leading. Mr. Jackson, well, let me rephrase that. What was he trying to tell you about? Well, Mr. Martin, we object to this as repetitive and leading. The witness has already testified on the subject twice. The court, I overrule the objection. You may answer the question. The witness. He just pointed where the wires met the house and told me that he had been having electrical trouble with electricity in the house. Mr. Jackson passed the witness. Mr. Martin's turn. Boy, is he funny. Mr. Long, what kind of work do you do? I'm not employed. What did you last do? I was a truck driver. Now, you heard screaming and yelling for 5 to 10 minutes before you went over to the house, correct? Yes, sir. And when you got there, the smoke coming out of the front of the house was so thick, you couldn't see the front wall of the house, could you? I could see the bottom part of the front wall, but not the top. But not. I could see the smoke and flames come from where the porch met the front wall. It was just boiling smoke and flames out of the top of there. The house was obviously on fire? Yes, sir. And you saw Todd Willingham cry tears or cry? You saw him crying and screaming? I heard him screaming. I seen him screaming. I didn't see him crying. Didn't you say earlier in the statement that you saw him start to cry? I don't remember seeing him cry. But do you remember giving a statement to James Palos, fire marshal? Yes, sir. You don't remember in that statement saying you saw him start to cry? I don't remember. No, sir. Let me show it to you and see if it refreshes your recollection about that. Is this the statement here that you gave? Yes, sir. Is that your signature? Yes, sir. Did you say in here you saw him start to cry? Yes, sir. He was obviously excited? Yes, sir. And you were too, no doubt? Yes, sir. Pass the witness. Did there seem anything strange about the way he was excited? My bad. It would just come in spurts. It wasn't continuous. It was like he would stop and think about it for a minute. Mr. Jackson passed the witness. Back to Mr. Martin. There were sparks when you got there? Sparks from the electrical wires? Yes, sir. You asked him where the sparks were coming from? Take a moment to recall, if you will. I may have. I don't remember asking him that. But when you got there, the electricity was popping and there were sparks? Yes, sir. It would pop and then it would stop. It wasn't continuously sparking. You asked him where the sparks were coming from? I may have. I don't remember. He pointed at that time to the box and said that there were sparks were coming from. What I remember he told me, he pointed at the box and told me he had been having trouble with electricity. And do you recall the electricity popping and sparking up there at the meter when you were there? Yes, sir. Ask the witness. Back to Mr. Jackson. That was when the house was engulfed in flames, though. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Mr. Jackson, no further questions. Mr. Martin, nothing further, Your Honor. You may step down. So the next witness will be Ron Franks. That's a good lip gloss on my bed. Let's feel dry, honey. All right, Mr. Jackson, would you state your name for the record, please? My name is Ronald G. Franks. Mr. Franks, I think it's apparent to everybody, but how are you employed? I'm a lieutenant paramedic with the Corsiana Fire Department. And how long have you been employed by the fire department? Approximately 6 years, 10 months. I'm assuming then you were employed in the capacity back on the 23rd of December of last year. Is that correct? Yes, sir, I was. Were you dispatched to the house fire in the Corsiana during the morning hours of that day? Yes, sir, I was. Can you tell us about where that was? It was in the 1200 block of West 11th. Tell us what happened when or what you observed when you got to that location. I was the first unit in. I pulled up on scene. It was a wood frame structure with fire totally involved in one room, and the front porch was involved with the fire. And there was some fire coming out the east side window of the structure. Were you the first unit on the scene? Yes, sir, I was. What procedure do you follow as soon as you got there? I positioned my truck in front of the house to the west side of it. I immediately went to pull a line off to make an attack on the fire. And at that time, I was approached by a man that said that his babies were inside the house. What action did you take at that time? I asked the man where in the house they were at and how many. Then I proceeded to charge the line and attack the fire. Can you describe how you did that? I pulled the line off the back of the truck, charged pump panel, then I approached the front porch, which was fully involved with fire. I tried to knock it down, tried to direct the steam in the room that was fully involved, knocked it down. Also, then the smoke rolled out of the house when I turned around, looked at the assistant chief. We need some men with air packs on. He advised me to go get air packs on. He took my line. Could you tell where the fire was coming from or which portions of the house were most involved at this time? The northeast room, which was the front room just behind the front porch. It was fully involved. The front porch was involved with fire. The fire was rolling over the top of the front porch. It was the fire coming out the window on the east side. Was fire burning low or middle on the walls or high? The fire was burning all the way down on the porch. All right. Were the floors of the house involved in the fire? Yes, they were. In fact, were you able to equip yourself so that you could enter the house? Yes, I did. Once I turned the line over to Chief Fogg, I went back and put the air packs. Then I took the line back and attempted to go into the room that was fully involved. And as I entered it, knocking some of the fire down, another line came in from the west side of the house and the stream struck me. So I backed out of that room, came back out, went back in, and made a primary search of the house. When you first entered the house, how did you enter? I entered through the first window of that room that was involved on the front porch. You later came back through that window. I came back out the window. Then I entered the front door. Was the floor burning in that room when you entered it? Yes, it was. Okay, you came back outside the house. Then what did you do at that point? I left my line with another man outside. Then I went in for a primary search through the front door, down the hallway to the back of the house, worked my way back up to the front. What did you find when you got inside the house as far as fire involvement? The fire pretty much had been knocked down by other crew going in, but there was a lot of heat, a lot of smoke. There were a few areas of fire still burning all through the hallway, through the room that was fully involved. At first, I went back to the back of the house. There was a lot of heat, a lot of smoke. I went to make a search of the house where the kitchen was and tried to open the back door for ventilation, and there was a refrigerator in front of it. Was it possible to exit through the back of the house? No, sir. Tell us why. Because there was a refrigerator in front of the back door. What did you do from that point? I moved on around to another room, searching each room and making sure there was nobody in each room. Was that the normal fire scene procedure? Yes, it is. Did you determine where the children were, where the fatalities of the fire were? When I pulled up on the side, Mr. Willingham approached me. I asked him where the children were at. He pointed to the room that was fully involved with the fire. He told me the number of children. Then it's still customary that we search every room to ensure that nobody is in that room. Can you identify that room that was fully involved in the fire as to where the babies were? He pointed to that room, witness pointing. After the fire was knocked down, you had an opportunity to inspect those rooms. Did you learn at that time where the fatalities of the fire were located? Yes, sir, I did. I saw the twins. Where were they? They were just as you step inside the front door. There's a door going to the bedroom, and they were right there by the door, just right by the front window where I walked in. Was the room damaged significantly? Heavy damage. Were the children burnt beyond any possible survival? Yes. May I have just a moment? Yes, sir. Sir, I will ask you to take a look at what has been marked State Exhibit number 2, and I will ask you to identify this photograph for me, please. That's right inside the doorway. That's the twins underneath the spring. Does that portray the crime scene in which one of the twins was found inside that front room? Yes. Mr. Dunn, Your Honor, I object to the crime scene. Mr. Martin, may we approach the bench conference held outside the hearing of the jury? Mr. Martin, it seems to me to be a rather clear violation of the order in line. The photograph of the children at the scene. Mr. Jackson, that's one child at the scene. Mr. Martin, I thought you were showing. Mr. Jackson, we intend to. We can take them outside the presence of the jury. The court, how long is this going to take? How many pictures do you have? Mr. Jackson, we only have one for this police officer to identify. Mr. Martin, what's the court going to do? The court, you want me to rule now or rule after you have a hearing? Mr. Martin, I guess after we have the hearing. The court, okay. Members of the jury panel, I need you to go back in the jury room for a moment and shut the door. We are going to take a hearing matter up outside the presence of the jury. The following was held outside the presence of the jury. The court, that is number 2. Mr. Martin, before I may, the record reflect that in the presence of the jury, the prosecutor handed this witness defense number 2, which he identified as a photograph of Cameron and Carmen Willingham at the scene of the fire. May the record so reflect that. The court, the record will so reflect. Mr. Dunn, may it reflect that these prosecutors referred to this as the crime scene to which we objected. Mr. Jackson, I don't know how exactly to describe it at this point. It's a crime scene as far as I'm concerned, and as far as the bulk of the witnesses are concerned in the case, Your Honor, and certainly. Mr. Martin, may we say at this time that we move for a mistrial. The court, that request is denied. Mr. Martin, do you want us to take particular objections about each exhibit, Your Honor? Or the court, why don't we just go ahead and see what he's going to offer in evidence? Mr. Jackson, I will also ask you to identify what has been marked State's Exhibit number 3 and ask if you can identify the photograph also. This is also one of the twins. Are these 2 photographs, State Exhibit number 2 and 3, an accurate representation of what you observed at the fire scene? Yes, they are. Okay. Mr. Jackson, I offer these into evidence as State Exhibit number 2 and 3 for purposes of this hearing. These are photographs I would offer before the jury and ask to be admitted before the jury also. Mr. Martin, we object to defendants 2 and 3 are not being relevant of any issue in dispute. It is undisputed that these 2 children died in the fire. Of course, the location of them is not disputed. There are other photographs which the prosecutor which did not show the bodies of the infants, but shows the location where they were found on the floor. The inflammatory effect of these photographs greatly outweigh any probative value. We object I guess he meant to say object to them. We further request the court exclude them under Rule 403, exclusion of relative evidence on special grounds. The court overrule the objection. They both will be admitted to the jury. Bring the panel back, Bill. Jury is present. Oh boy. So I guess Mr. Martin did not want those photos to be shown to the jury because if you think about it, and as I'm reading, that's why I'm like, it's so good to read the court case because you can really kind of see and put it together. It's like, why he ain't running that house? They was right there. So sad. All right, but I'm not trying to make any notion. I'm just trying to read. So let's continue, y'all. Let's continue. Let me pause. What do you think so far? What do you think? I'm curious. Okay, here we go. Mr. Jackson. Mr. Franks, I would ask you to take a look at 2 photographs and mark Exhibit 2 and Exhibit 3. Can you identify these for me? If you can, please, sir. Yes, I can. These are photographs of the twins that were in the fire that were burnt. Where were those bodies found? They were found just inside as you go in the front door. There's a door to your left that leads to the bedroom. They're just inside that door to the left of that room. Oh, shoot, went too fast. Oh, time. Yes, sir. I don't know why I put time right there. Yes, sir. What were the circumstances of that? Firefighter Van Bauer had gone in a different direction doing a search, and he was at the back of the house when he found the child. And before I made it back to the front of the house, he had already taken her out. I'm sure you had an opportunity to see people who suffer from smoke inhalation. Have you not? Yes, sir, I have. You had a chance to observe the defendant, Cameron Todd Willingham, on this occasion. Is that correct? Yes, sir, I have. Did he appear to be a person who was suffering from any type of smoke problems or coughing? Not at that time. I didn't notice any. He was really excited. And once he told me there were children in the house, I proceeded to attack the fire. Let me direct your attention to an occasion a few days later, the 27th of December, 1991. Did you have an opportunity to return to that fire scene? Yes, sir, I did. Can you tell me the reasons why you returned to the fire scene of that day? Yes, sir. I was to assist the fire marshal with the drawing of a sketch of the house. What type activity have you been engaged in just prior to pointing to the fire scene? I had been to the children's funeral. When you came to the fire scene just after the children's funeral on the 27th, was the defendant Cameron Todd Willingham present? When I returned to the fire scene? Yes, sir. No, sir, not at that time. He came later on. Okay, did you have an opportunity to observe him there at the fire scene on that occasion also? Yes, sir, I did. I think you haven't indicated who was there, but can you do that for the jury at this time? The fire marshal was there, Captain Ricky Crenshaw was there also, and I believe Mr. Willingham's father was there. Did Mr. Willingham attempt to engage you in a conversation at this point? Yes, sir, he did. Did he, in fact, speak to you on this occasion? Yes, he did. Did you initiate any questions with him? No, sir, I did not. What did Mr. Willingham want to speak with you about on this occasion? Mr. Martin, Your Honor, we object to that as hearsay. No relevance has been shown irrelevant. The court, I overrule. Mr. Jackson, you may answer the question. The witness. Initially, he had asked about a dart set that was in there. That was in the fire structure and the fire marshal. He asked me to escort him inside so he may look for it. As we were going through, he proceeded in the bedroom where the children were burnt and made a comment to the effect that when he came into the room, Mr. Martin, we object to this as non-responsive. Mr. Jackson, I believe it's responsive. It's a continuation of the question I asked. I will be happy to ask another question. The court re-asked the question. Mr. Jackson, can you tell us about other type of conversations he engaged you in when you entered in the children's room? He asked me if I knew where the fire started or how it started. Did he make any statement to you about his knowledge of the fire? Yes, sir. He said that when he came into the room, it was burning. He pointed over to an area of the room along this wall and on the ceiling. So he indicated to you that he came into the room. Is that correct? Yes, sir, he did. Did he seem to be upset about the dartboard? Yes, sir, he did. Let me ask you a question about this conversation. Did he make any conversation with reference to samples being taken by the police department? Excuse me. Mr. Martin, we object to that as leading the court. I will overrule the objection. Mr. Jackson, you may answer the question. The witness. Yes, sir. As we were coming out of the house, we met the fire marshal towards the front door of the hallway, and he made the statement to the effect that if any more samples were taken of the floor, he had poured some cologne on the floor because the children had liked the smell of that cologne. He poured it from the bathroom to where the children were burnt. He told, let me make sure I get this right. No, for real. He told you he poured it from the bathroom through the hallway into the children's room? Yes, sir. The cologne? Yes, sir. And mentioned this in reference to samples that were taken? He said if there were any more samples taken, the cologne would probably show up in the samples. Mr. Jackson passed the witness. Whoa. What y'all think about that? Well, let's get into Mr. Martin asking Mr. Franks some questions, honey. Mr. Franks, when you first saw Todd at the scene, you were not examining him for the purpose of diagnosing smoke inhalation, were you? No, sir, I wasn't. You were in a hurry? Yes, sir, I was. He was hysterical? Yes, sir. Your attention was on the other matters? Yes, sir. Now, it is not uncommon for people to return to their home after a fire to claim property, is it? No, sir, it's not. You would expect them to do that, would you? Yes, sir. And if anyone had poured anything on the floor of the residence that was being investigated, you would want to know that, would you? Yes, sir. And what it was, wouldn't you? Yes, sir. Mr. Martin passed the witness. Mr. Jackson have no further questions. He may step down. So they're waiting for, it's going to take 10 minutes to 12. I think they're going to go to lunch. So we're going to skip on over that, baby. So now that the jury is back, they're going to call Stephen Van DeVar. It'd be funny when they make you say your whole goddamn government. Mr. Jackson, would you state your name, please? Stephen Keith Van DeVar. Steve, how are you employed? Corsiana Fire Department. Steve, let me direct your attention back to the morning hours of December 23rd, 1991. Do you remember that day? Yes. Can you tell us what type of duties you were engaged in on that day? We had just had a house fire on North 36th, and we were back at the station cleaning up, getting the trucks ready to go back into service. Can you tell me what location approximately you were dispatched to on that morning? The call came in as 1200 block of West 11th. Did you proceed to that location? Yes, sir. Can you tell us what you found when you arrived? When we arrived, there was a frame residence. It was pretty well involved in fire. There was fire coming out the front windows, and pretty well the whole front porch was involved in fire. Did you learn that there were children who might be present in the house? Yes, sir. There were people out on the street and stuff saying there were still kids in the house. What action did you take at that time? We were later laid a line from the hydrant on the 19th Street and were hooking it up, and I put it on the air pack and went around to the front of the house. They already had a line pulled off the other truck, and Lieutenant Charles Denson and I started going into the house. Can you tell us, what did you notice when you went into the house? A lot of fire, in front of the house and to the left room. To the left room, there was a lot of fire. How did you make entry into the house? Charles Denson was in front of me. We went in the front door, knocked down the fire. We went in, and let me ask you about that. You say you were knocking down fires, putting water on it. Where was the fire concentrated? Where was it burning? The front of the hallway into the first room to the left. Was the fire on the floor? Yes, sir. Did you find that rather unusual in house fires? Yes, sir. Most of the time, the floor will be the safest place to be because there won't be any fire there. It will be cooler. It won't have as much heat and smoke on the floor. Did that create a problem for you in this particular fire? Yeah, it slowed up a little bit. We had to really put a lot of water on it so we could, go further into the house. When you got the fire knocked down and got into the house, what did you do? What was your duty? We went all the way down the hall into the kitchen, and I let go of the hose, went to the right, the first room to the right, and started doing a search under, on the floor, and went through. I don't know why that looked at me. I don't know why I did that. What were you looking for? Well, just feeling around mainly. You can't see anything. You're just feeling around to feel somebody or something. I went through the first room there and then didn't find anything in there. And kind of by accident, I went through the door into the bedroom and I started checking in there. Can you tell us what happened when you got in there? I felt the bed. I couldn't really see the bed. I started feeling around on it. And about that time, they got the what we call exhaust fan set up in the front room. They turned that on. I started blowing some of the smoke out and I could make out a body laying on the bed. All right. What action did you take at that point? There was another fireman next to me, and I tapped him on the shoulder as I grabbed her so she could help lead me back to the house, out of the house. And I picked her up, and we made out in the front yard. Can you tell me where on the bed she was lying? She was lying about in the middle of the bed, face down, and her head was probably about the edge of where the pillows would be at the top of the bed. Had she apparently been the victim of some burns? All I could really see on her was some what I would call soot. It was kind of around her mouth and stuff. That's all I could see because I still had my mask on and stuff. It was kind of hard to see. Could you tell whether she was alive at that time? I couldn't tell. Did you have an opportunity to see a person identified to you as Cameron Willingham on that day? No, sir, I never did. Okay, you were involved with the fire? Uh-huh. Mr. Jackson passed a witness. So now they're going to call Ethel Baptist at this time. Mr. Jackson, would you state your name, please, ma'am? Ethel Baptist, where do you live? 1207 First Street here in Corsiano. Can you tell us what kind of work or occupation you are engaged in? Nursing supervisor, emergency room. How long have you been a nurse at the emergency room? 20 years. Are you licensed nurse or registered nurse? Registered nurse. All right. I take it then you were on duty. Well, I will ask you, were you on duty at the emergency room on the 23rd of December of last year? Yes, sir. All right. Were you on duty when certain persons, apparently the victims of a fire, were brought to the hospital? Yes. Did you have an opportunity to come in contact with a person by the name of Cameron Willingham at that point? Yes, I did. And did you have an opportunity to observe him? Yes. Can you tell us the context or the circumstances in which you came in contact with Mr. Willingham? Actually, I was in my office when he got the call that they were coming in. The nurses needed assistance, and I came out. They were taking care of another child, so I went to his room and took care of him. All right. Can you tell us what you observed? Child, I don't know why they put that word together. So far as Mr. Willingham was concerned, well, he was doing a lot of crying and a lot of talking about the fire and how he should have died with them, that it should have been him instead of them, and that he was asleep at the time and heard one of the children calling him. Did he make any comments about where he observed the fire in the house? Well, he started talking about how hot it was. Then he said the ceiling was on fire. At one point, he said the ceiling was on fire. All right. Was Mr. William's wife present there in the hospital? She entered later, I believe. All right. Were you made aware that she was present? Yes. Did Mr. William ask to see her on one or more occasions? Yes, he did. Did she immediately enter the room? Where? No. Did you find that unusual? Yes. And he had asked several times where she was. I believe one of the ladies in the room was maybe a family member of hers that was telling him why she wasn't there. So I thought it was really unusual. Then finally, they just kept telling him she would be here in a few minutes. I thought it was unusual. Was your impression that she didn't want to see him? Mr. Martin, we object to that as calling on the witness to speculate. The court, I sustain the objection. Mr. Jackson, do you believe based on what you saw that she did not want to see him? Mr. Martin, Your Honor, same objection. The witness doesn't have any personal knowledge of what another person's thoughts were, so we object to it. The court, I sustain the objection. Mr. Jackson, did she finally come into the room with him? Yes. Did he seem agitated with her failure to come in sooner? Mr. Martin, object, leading. The court, I overrule the objection. Mr. Jackson, you may answer that. The witness, yes. In what way did he seem agitated? Well, when she came to the room, he wanted her. He kept begging for her. She went and approached the bed where he was lying, and he kept telling her, come on up here, come on up here. And she kept kind of standing back. Finally, he said, come on up to me. What's wrong with you? Why are you acting like that? You have an opportunity to observe people under very traumatic circumstances, I'm sure. Yes. Is that true, Miss Baptist? Yes. Based on what you observed, did this seem unusual behavior for a person to exhibit in the face of circumstances like these? Yes. Mr. Jackson, I will pass the witness. Now it's Mr. Martin's time. Miss Baptist, did you know that at that time you saw Stacy, she had been informed that her 3 children were dead? I believe she had. Did you know that she was in the room with Amber and that's why she didn't come in there with Todd during the time you were talking about? The lady told him that. You don't find it unusual that a mother would go to the bedside of the dead or dying child first, do you? No, I don't. You recognize that under these kinds of circumstances, people act differently and they act strange, don't they? Yes. Mr. Martin passed the witness. Back to Mr. Jackson. By the same token, you would still characterize Mr. Williams' behavior as strange. Yes. I assume he was brought in for observation, is that correct? I'm not sure, except for here go Mr. Martin, y'all. Your Honor, we object as if she's not sure. We object to her speculating about it. The court, restate your question. Did you observe any injuries insofar as Mr. Willingham was concerned? A couple of small burns. Will you characterize these as inconsensual injuries? Yes. Did he seem to be suffering from any type of smoke inhalation? No. Pass the witness. Back to Mr. Martin. Now, Miss Baptist, you weren't the treating physician, were you? No. And did you render any medical care? Yes. And what did you do? I assessed his injuries, his vital signs, and I stayed with him and gave him medicine. And did you clean the burn on his shoulders? No. I only put a cold compression on those burns. So he had burns? Yes. He had burns on one of his hands and burns on his shoulder. Yes. His hair, his eyelashes, and eyebrows were burned. I think that's right. And in fact, he had soot his nasal hairs were singed, weren't they? I don't recall. Do you know that he had a soot in his nasal cavities and pharynx? No. How did you get soot in there? From inhalation of smoke. I butchered that word. I apologize, y'all. Mr. Martin passed the witness. Mr. Jackson. But still, I believe your earlier testimony was that he had not seemed to be suffering from smoke inhalation. Is that correct? That's correct. Did he have any injuries on his feet? Not that I recall. The burn on his shoulder, I believe, was characterized as well. You characterized it as inconsensual. It was about an inch or 2 long. Is that correct? Yes. He had a blister on his hand? That's right. Pass the witness. Back to Mr. Martin. Were you there when the doctor examined him? Yes. Which doctor was that? Dr. Shaw. Mr. Martin passed the witness. Mr. Jackson, no further questions. The court, you may step down. Mr. Jackson, this witness needs to get back to work. May she be excused. Mr. Martin, we know where to reach her. You are excused subject to call Miss Baptist. Okay, now the state is going to call Jason Grant. And it's getting a little crazy, y'all. Like, whoa. I'm going to pause right here for a quick second, and then we're going to come back. Okay?